Hello, today we will be making our healthy homemade mango oat soap. So we know that mango is good for us when eaten, but it's also good for us when used externally through the use of soap. It helps to brighten out the skin tone and hydrate the skin, also as to combat acne among other benefits. And also oat is good for eczema. It helps to moisturize the skin, balance the pH level of the skin, and it also helps as a itch relief for the skin. So it's very good externally as well. So let's get going. Here are our ingredients and equipment for today. And so you want to gather these beforehand so that you have everything in place, so you don't have to be running all over the place, especially when you start to mix your batter. You don't want to have to seeking to find something else, right? So we have our coconut oil, our palm oil, or whatever oil you want to use. You can also use a mixture of oils, but you want to be consistent in what you use. Your water, your lye, your juice or puree, your oat flour, turmeric, and of course the essential oil. And then here we have our list of equipment that we'll be using, which is your scale. To be accurate, you want to have your scale, your measuring cups, your spatula, your gloves, your mask if necessary, and your molds, of course. So I've measured my lye, which is 123, and always remember that we add lye to water and not water to lye. And it is always best to do it in open air or in an open room where there's a lot of air circulation. And also remember to let the children stay away from it for this part of it. Alright, so we're just mixing everything together to get it properly saturated, and I'm going to just leave that to this thing. And just a reminder that this will heat up, so it will burn. You want to keep it out of the way of children and pets, and you yourself also be cautious. So here we have our lye and water mixture, and now we are going to measure our oils. And always remember to zero your scale after putting on each container, because a container does have weight, and you also want to ensure that you're using the correct unit of measurement, and we are using grams. If your scale is, uses a different type of measurement, then you can always do the conversion. So we are adding our coconut oil, and again we are using 400 grams of coconut oil, and we know that the coconut oil gives a very nice sud, right? So it's really good in our soaps. So we are at 200, we're going up to 400, right? And you can do the measurement in one. Once you get the correct amount of coconut oil, then you can just add the palm oil to it, or you can just individually measure them out and then combine them together in one. So our total measurement of oil will be 760 grams, and that's a lot of oil. Yeah, that's a lot of oil. So be extra careful so it doesn't get spilled, or so the soap doesn't end up going wrong. Follow the procedures as close as you can, prayerfully. Yeah. Yes, so mine did go over 5 grams more than the amount. Not going to scoop it out. So we want to just combine the oils together well, and we're using our hand blender to do that, our stick blender, hand blender, whatever. And then to that we're going to add our water and lime mixture. And while you're doing it, you want to gently, not too rigorously, blend just a little, because you don't want it to get too thicken too thick too quickly. You don't want it to thicken too quickly, else you won't get to add anything else. So we're just going to just a little pulse here and there, going up and down. Remember to be careful so it doesn't splatter on you. Right, and already it's starting to get a little trace, as you can see it on the blender. It's getting a little trace already, so you want to not blend it too much, because we haven't added our essential oils or our mango as yet. So now we have emulsified our oils and lime mixture together, and I'm just going to separate it in half, because I'm going to use part with the mango puree and part with the oat, primarily just to give it 2 different colors. You could combine everything together, but I wanted to have some contrast in colors. So I'm adding the mango puree to this half of it, and again, we don't want to mix it too vigorously because we don't want it to thicken too quickly. Alright, so that's it's mixed together, and I'm just adding the turmeric, which again is optional, just to add a little brightness to it. Right, so we're just going to mix this in a little, and already we are seeing that it's coating the blender, so we know that it's already starting to trace. And we don't want it to get too thickened, because then it will be very difficult to pour into your mold, and then your soap can end up to be a disaster. So we're just going to add our essential oils, and I'm using peppermint oil and orange oil. And as mentioned before, I like my soaps to be mildly scented. And we're just going to give that a little mix in, sufficient to have it evenly distributed. Right, it looks like a very thick smoothie. So now we're just going to mix in our oats flour into the next half of the mixture. So we're going to whisk this in quickly and gently at the same time. I should have used the blender in the white one first, but because I didn't want the white one to get all messy with the orange, so I just use the whisk. The whisk takes a longer time for it to trace, but I'm now going to pour it in because the orange mixture is starting to get thickened. Alright, so here we have our mold, a silicone mold. You can use the other individual molds or whatever you have. So you see that thickness? We don't want it any thicker than that. Don't want it any thicker than that. So we're going to use our spatula to scrape out every last bit. Right. You just want to level it. It's very much similar to when you're baking. You just shade the pan a little so that it can be leveled out, and then scrape off the sides. And now I'm going to pour the oat mixture in it, and you can pour it however you want to. So the oat mixture is not as thick as the mango, but it's fine. I didn't want to delay pouring it in, and then the orange one starts to, the mango starts to get too thick. And so I'm scraping that on top, and then I'm now going to just kind of draw some lines through it to get the orange into the white into the orange. So when you cut it, it will have some form of design. And then as the top part start to thicken some more, you can always use a spoon and just form some shapes at the top. So because the oat mixture was not as thick, I had to wait a little before shaping it with a spoon, but I forgot, and so mine is just flat. This batch is just flat, but that's fine. Right, but if you wanted to have those waves at the top or those pretty designs, then once it's in the form of being able to shape it, then you go right ahead and do that. So you're going to let it sit for at least 24 hours before unmolding it. It's best to wait like a day and a half to 2 days, but most times I just want to see the beauty of it, so I always unmold it after a day and a half. But bear in mind that whilst you may be able to unmold it after a day and a half to 2 days, when the process of saponification would have taken place, you still want to wait at least 2 weeks before you use your soap, so that it can be cured properly and not just melt away. And especially for persons who have sensitive skin, you may also want to wait more than the 48 hours, the 2 days, before actually using it. But if you use it too quickly, it's just going to melt away, and it's almost like a waste. So the longer you leave it to cure, the longer it will actually last while you are using it. And especially if you're going to give it to somebody or sell it, you want it to be as lasting, so that you give them a soap or sell them a soap and it's finishes in 2 to 3 days. You don't want that. So it's best to let it rest and cure for at least 2 weeks. So here is my finished soaps, Mango-oat Soap, and they, as mentioned, they smell mildly scented, not up in your face, irritating you, but just mildly scented. And they look so beautiful. They look like they could eat.
Rub it, pull it underneath, hold it down on the camera.
So go ahead and try and share your feedback, or ask any questions that you may have. Take care.